The Game Award nominees for 2023 have been announced. Today I am joined by my friend Sam to discuss what we think deserves to win in each category. How are you doing today, Sam?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful.
So we're going to just kind of go down the list. We're going to ignore Game of the Year and Best Game Direction for the time being and then circle back around to that at the very end. Because I kind of feel like our opinions might alter a little bit depending on what we feel for some of these other categories. So we're actually going to start off with Best Narrative. So for this category, we have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, Final Fantasy XVI, and Spider-Man 2.
Have you been playing any of Phantom Liberty?
I finished it.
You finished one of the routes, or?
I actually did all of them, because it kind of branches off in a way that you can save and just do the rest of the routes. So I just saved at that point and did all of them. I love Phantom Liberty. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I feel like I won't have a lot to say about this category because I've only played one of the games on this list, but I believe you've played all of them, yeah?
Yeah, and also, which one have you played?
Baldur's Gate 3. I've played Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay. I am going to start playing Baldur's Gate 3. That is definitely my biggest omission of this year. I did play like a little bit earlier this year and I really wasn't into it. But I am going to give it more of a chance before the actual awards happen. So unfortunately, I can't really give much of an opinion on Baldur's Gate 3 except I don't know if it's going to be something that's for me because I don't really like D&D stuff all that much. But I hear nothing but praise for it. So if it ends up winning this category, I wouldn't be all that surprised. But based on what I've played... sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you're good. It has a wonderful narrative. That's all I'm saying. I think the storytelling of Baldur's Gate could not have been more perfect. And I've heard a lot about Phantom Liberty. I don't know anything about Alan Wake, Final Fantasy, or Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
So, from what I've played Phantom Liberty, I finished Final Fantasy XVI and Spider-Man 2. I have heard nothing but great things about Alan Wake 2, but I have not played it, and I have not seen any of it myself, so that's another one I can't really comment on. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm stuck between Cyberpunk or Spider-Man 2. Mm-hmm. It's tough. I'm probably going to go Spider-Man 2 on this one.
Really?
I did really like the narrative of that game. It was fantastic. It is really close, and it could be... Maybe by the day of the awards, after I sit on Phantom Liberty a bit more, maybe I'll like that one more. But right now, I'm going to say Spider-Man 2.
Well, my vote will be Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, like I said, I'm just blown away. It is a fantastic, wonderful game. And though it took like 20 years for this third game to come out, it was so worth the wait.
Okay, so the next category we have is Best Art Direction. And in this category, we have Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay. Now,
you say
this is a category that I actually think I can say a lot about without knowing the games, because I'm so big into art direction and the technical aspect of like artistic design and animation and stuff. And all of these games deserve to be here in their own unique way. They all have beautiful art direction. But I don't know who I don't know who I think would win. I don't know who would win in this category. No?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this also does come down to personal taste, because the way that Lies of P is very artistic is completely different from something how like Hi-Fi Rush or Mario Bros. Wonder is artistic. Personally, for me, I'm really stuck between Hi-Fi Rush or Mario Wonder. But I think I'm going to go with Mario Wonder just because of how unique that art style was for the series. And that it was the first time this series has broken into this new art style in over 20 years. They haven't done anything unique with the 2D Mario space in such a long time, so I kind of want to give it my vote for that alone. But I could really be between either of the two.
I think my vote would be between Hi-Fi Rush and Lies of P. Lies of P is gorgeous, but Hi-Fi Rush was just so unique and wonderful.
Oh yeah, especially from that studio too, because that was the same studio that made Dishonored, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely
so.
like so out of their usual type of style. It's really cool to see studios do stuff like this. The next category is Best Score in Music. And I'm kind of surprised I don't have much of an opinion in this category because normally I do. The nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy XVI, Hi-Fi Rush, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like Zelda is a very strange nomination for this category.
I mean, I think that Zelda is so known for its music that I feel like it's almost like a default addition to this category. A new Zelda game comes out, and then it's nominated for soundtrack. Though I will say, I just don't know how I feel about it winning this category.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a giant Zelda fan. I would love to see it win, but I would be lying if I said it deserved it, especially with what it's up against. I've heard great things about Baldur's Gate's 3 soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Baldur's Gate, it has a wonderful soundtrack, and I think what's great about it is that it doesn't take too much attention away from the game, and it really just it fuses in with the experience. I feel like a lot of games with great soundtracks, it's like I'm experiencing the soundtrack separate from the game, while my experience with the gameplay and soundtrack and stuff is like fused together, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, it just meshes so well, and it sounds beautiful. Hi-Fi Rush also has a great audio direction.
Yeah, it definitely does, because its audio direction is literally the basis of the game that you're attacking onto the beat of the audio.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I think that out of any category Hi-Fi Rush is nominated for, I would say that this one is the one that deserves the most.
I was actually going to say, you convinced me. I was going to say I was probably going to vote for Final Fantasy XVI because the music in that game is fantastic. I love that music. But this is, Hi-Fi Rush, out of the ones nominated, is the only one that it is integral to the actual gameplay, how the audio is implemented.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they do it
I'll probably vote for that. Yeah, they do it really well. So I'll vote for Hi-Fi Rush in this case.
Ooh, you know, I was looking, it's best score and then best audio design for Hi-Fi Rush as well.
Oh, that might change my opinion, actually.
Actually, looking at best audio design now, scratch the last category. Best audio design, Hi-Fi Rush for sure. That like leads me to believe that I would go for Final Fantasy for score and music.
Yeah, I completely forgot they separated the two into two different categories. I just remember it being the same category. I will change my vote to Final Fantasy for the actual music, and then Hi-Fi Rush for the audio design for sure.
You know, also, like, I think Resident Evil has wonderful audio design. I mean, that would be my original vote for this category.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention this. I should name the nominees for Best Audio Design. It is Alan Wake 2, the Dead Space remake, Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4. And my opinion hasn't changed. I think Hi-Fi Rush still does deserve it, but a lot of the other games in this category do make sense. Except for Spider-Man 2, I think. That's the only, like, odd one out here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like its audio design is just, like, the way they design, like, the sound effects and all that stuff, it's just standard for a Spider-Man game.
Right, yeah. That was kind of also my other thing with Best Score in Music with Zelda, is that it doesn't necessarily innovate on what has come before. It's not all that new versus what Breath of the Wild did with its own music. It's kind of just doing more of the same. So I don't think it's not in like the same way that even though it is good, it doesn't innovate on what came before. While something like Hi-Fi Rush is entirely new for both the studio and also game design as a whole.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's going to be a reoccurring theme with my opinions on Tears of the Kingdom, is that it just, and I don't get me wrong, I love Zelda so much, but it didn't innovate enough from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom for me to think that it should win some categories. Because I feel like it is just a copy of what came before in, 2016?
2017, but...
2017.
We'll definitely get to that a bit more. I semi-disagree, but we'll definitely get to that.
We'll talk about it.
The next category is for Best Performances, which there is Ben Starr for Final Fantasy XVI. He plays Clive. Cameron Monaghan from Star Wars Jedi Survivor. He plays Cal. We have Idris Elba from Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. He plays Reed. We have, and excuse my pronunciation, I might mispronounce this one, Melaine Libbard from Alan Wake 2. She plays Saga.
I think that's Melanie?
Melanie? Okay. I just got that completely wrong. And then I'll let you introduce the next one because I mispronounced it earlier.
Neil Newborn for Asterion in Baldur's Gate 3.
And then we have Yuri Lowenthal from Spider-Man 2. He obviously plays Spider-Man.
My vote for this is Asterion, Neil Newborn. He does a fantastic job. And maybe I'm just being biased because I love Asterion so much, but I think literally any Baldur's Gate main character could have been nominated, and it would have been justified. I think Asterion's just going to be nominated because he's a favorite of everybody. He has such a massive fan base, but the voice acting in Baldur's Gate is some of the best features of that game. Everyone does such a good job, including Neil Newborn.
For me in this category, it is really tough because there's 3 I really want to vote for. Ben Starr did fantastic in Final Fantasy XVI, and he is one of the biggest highlights of that entire game. Idris Elba, obviously, it's Idris Elba, he's going to do great, and he did amazing in Phantom Liberty. And then, of course, Yuri as Spider-Man, he's debatably one of the best Spider-Man actors out there. But when I was thinking on this before we were recording, and I think I'm going to give it to Ben Starr.
Okay.
And honestly, it is not just for his role in Final Fantasy XVI, but it is also because of all of the voice acting stuff he does on Twitter. I don't know, have you ever seen him do stuff on Twitter or like his social media posts?
No, I have not. Mm-mm.
He is always given these random prompts from fans, and he'll just respond with a video in his Clive voice. And it's so funny. I love it so much.
Yeah, I actually would agree with you, and I think I don't think you're not a part of the Baldur's Gate fan community, but that's another reason I would go for Asterion or Neil for this one, just because he is so involved in the community, and in that exact way. I think me and you are just on opposite sides of this of fandoms.
Right, yeah.
Where I have not seen anything about Ben Starr, but I mean, it's just my bias playing into Neil. He's a very funny and very kind guy.
No, yeah, I getcha. It definitely is in this category. I am kind of slightly going for the person versus their actual role. I think if I was going with the actual role, I'd probably go with Yuri. But that involvement with the community does really put Ben a step above all the others for me.
Okay.
The next one is for Best Ongoing Game. And honestly, this category is a lot more interesting this year than it is in past years. We have Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. So, before we get our opinions out of the way, I'm just going to be real. Final Fantasy XIV is going to win. It wins every year. No matter what it's up against, Final Fantasy is going to win. But when it comes to our opinions, I'll let you go because I know you're bursting. you're wanting to talk about what you want to talk about. So I'll let you go.
Impact, yeah. I think that Genshin Impact has actually gotten a lot better. And the Fontaine coming out recently, Fontaine was done beautifully. It has a wonderful story. Same with Sumeru of last year. And I honestly do think that it deserves to win this category. Not just because I'm going to get Primos, but I truly do think that Fontaine specifically is a wonderful addition to the game, and they did such a great job on the new area and the new 5 stars and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Genshin. I don't like it very much, so I can't really comment on Genshin's expansions. Honestly, I'm tempted to say Cyberpunk because of the giant turnaround they had.
Oh yeah, no, Cyberpunk had a crazy turnaround. The new combat system, the new DLC, they're doing wonderful.
I think they're doing great, but the only thing that is making me not want to give it to them is still because of how that game launched, and a lot of the turnaround this game had shouldn't have needed to be a thing. This is just what the game should have been 3 years ago, and they're just finally fixing it. And
I will be... Oh, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
you go.
I will be fine with any of these games winning. I play Fortnite. I don't want Fortnite to win.
That's
think
my
that
vote. I'm gonna be real.
Really? You think Fortnite should win?
Dude, OG season has been so fun. Like, not even joking, it is so fun.
But they just reverted it back to the original state. They're doing nothing creative with that.
You can argue that, but I also do feel like the actual seasons have been fun. I wasn't all that into Fortnite back when it was really popular in 2018. But over the last couple of years, I have actually, played this quite a lot with friends. And they've just added so much to the game that the game is completely different from what it was. That is going to be my vote. I am going to vote for Fortnite this year.
I cannot believe that. I just think that it's I wouldn't say, I think it's good ongoing. I wouldn't say that it's the best ongoing. It doesn't, I don't think that it innovates or does anything crazy that changes the game. It's just a continuation of PUBG or some bullshit. It's just a battle royale game that is getting updates.
I guess I could see where you're coming from. I don't know. I think out of the bunch here that is provided on this list, Fortnite is the one that I have personally enjoyed the changes the most from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I do like Fortnite. I'm not shitting on the development of it. I'm sure there are tons of people who work very hard at Epic Games to make it a wonderful game. I just personally don't see it being best ongoing.
No, I get you. I don't know, maybe if I was in the Genshin, maybe I would have a different view, but... And also, I'm not super into Final Fantasy XIV either. I've tried, and I do want to give it more time. It's just an expensive game to give your time because you have to pay monthly for that game. I want to get into it, but I don't want to be paying $15 a month for a game. Mm-hmm. But I still do think Final Fantasy XIV is going to win easily, as it always does.
Oh, for sure. This next category I'm actually kind of excited to talk about.
Okay, I'll let you introduce it then.
Oh, sure. Best community support. We have nominated is Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, and No Man's Sky.
I'm assuming your vote's gonna be for Baldur's Gate.
I mean, I'm a little torn on my vote for this, because, give me one moment to put my thoughts together.
Okay, I'll go over my opinions on it real quick then.
Yeah, go for it.
I have no idea. No Man's Sky is a solid pick, but I feel like its community support was something that happened years ago that it just continues to get credit for. But also, I don't play No Man's Sky. I could be just completely wrong on that. So, I don't know. I feel like this one, now, I'm still feeling kind of the same thing as the previous category, that I don't want to reward Cyberpunk for something being fixed that shouldn't have been broken from the start.
Well, the thing though is that with this category, that's kind of the whole point, because it's recognizing a game for its outstanding community support, transparency and responsiveness, and inclusive of social media activity and game updates / patches, which I think Cyberpunk is the poster child for, in many ways, because it started off so bad, and then they were very transparent with the community and slowly fixed things. And though it should have been like that from the start, their actions saved this game, and that's what I think is so wonderful, and that's why I think it's top 2 for me in this category.
I see that. I think I will give it to Cyberpunk, because they did, even though the game should have been fixed from the start, they didn't just fix the game. They did the whole 2.0 update that added a ton of stuff that did not need to be there.
Yeah, they went above and beyond for a game that died long ago, and somehow they did revive it.
Okay, you convinced me on that. I'll give it to Cyberpunk. What are you between?
So I'm actually stuck between Cyberpunk 2077, like I stated before, like I already said why I think that one should win, and Baldur's Gate 3, because honestly, out of all the games here, I feel like Larian Studios is so connected with its fan base and so responsive, and obviously the game was in was it early access? Is that what that would called beta?
Yeah, it was early access on Steam
for 2 years, and the community that it built with its player base there still continues on even though the game has been released, and they've only released 4 patches since it's come out, but those 4 patches they've listened to the community. There's like things that were not broken, but they added in things because the community wanted it so bad, and they could have not done that. They gave themselves so much extra work with these patches, and so I think it's the same thing as Cyberpunk. It's like, this game is good now, people like this game, but if we did this, it would increase everyone's enjoyment. But we're gaining nothing from it because they've already paid for this game, you know?
Right. And I mean, even that whole 2.0 update, they could have put that part of, oh, you have to buy Phantom Liberty to get this. No, they just still released that part for free.
And that, I think that both are wonderful. I just think that Larian Studios has always been wonderful, and CD Projekt Red, when it comes to Cyberpunk's development, really stepped up the game and really took charge, and I think that stark difference is what makes it so great.
Okay, I get you. Which one do you think you're gonna vote for?
Oddly enough, I'd probably go for Cyberpunk, but my heart, I still think that Larian Studios for how they treated Baldur's Gate 3 deserves it. So if anyone wins, if either of those two win, I would be happy with it.
Okay. All right, the next category is actually a really fun one. It is Best Independent Game, which we have Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder.
We both know what we're voting for on this one.
Yeah, we can still talk about it though. I'll be real, I've only played one game on this list, so take that as you will. I am voting for Sea of Stars. I absolutely love that game, and I fell in love with Sabotage Studio as an indie studio after playing that game. It made me go back to their previous game and play The Messenger, which is also fantastic, in some ways even better than Sea of Stars, which really surprised me. So Sea of Stars, absolutely my winner.
I've played a few of these games on this. I've played a few games that are nominated for this category. By far, I mean, Dredge is my favorite game. Is one of my favorite games of the year. It's my favorite indie game of the year for sure. I would say it's up there with Baldur's Gate 3 on the games that have come out this year. I love Dredge so much. It is a wonderful game. It has a beautiful art direction. The sound design is amazing. And, yeah. I can't give this game high enough praise.
I definitely want to check out some of these other games. I've heard a lot about Dredge. it's one of those games that I just haven't gotten around to. And then Viewfinder, that concept is so cool. Whenever you see gameplay of it, whenever I see it, when people say like, what is a next-gen video game, Viewfinder is something I think of as, I don't know how you would do this on older pieces of hardware, because the whole concept is just so interesting around how you're able to change the perspective of stuff. I just haven't played it because it is really expensive for what it is. It's like a 3-hour long game for $30 or whatever the price is. So I just haven't gotten around to it. Whenever it does go on sale, I definitely want to pick it up though. Okay, now we're getting into some of the genre specifics. We have Best Action Game. We have Armored Core 6, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. Have you played any of these games?
No.
I have only played Hi-Fi Rush. I honestly don't have a lot to say in this category. Maybe if I played Armored Core 6, that would win out. I've heard good things about that game, but I've heard very little about that game. So I don't know what happened with Armored Core 6, because I feel like that game should have gotten nominated for more, but just people didn't buy it. Like, and it's really weird. After FromSoft hit just peak popularity after Elden Ring last year.
I mean, Armored Core has a huge community that I have peeked into. One of our friends knows about this a lot, and they are almost certain that out of all these games, it will win purely because it is this game and it is FromSoft.
Yeah, I think FromSoft alone is going to be the thing that makes this one win, but I'm just really surprised that this game didn't pop off more this year, especially after Elden Ring last year. But I don't know. I'm going to give it the Hi-Fi Rush because that's the only one that I've actually played. So next category is Best Action Adventure. We have Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say, this one I actually have a one... hold on, let me think. I actually have a set answer, like a vote that I'm sure on, and it does not waver at all.
What is that?
I do think that Tears of the Kingdom will win this category. I think that the traversal and the puzzle solving and the new mechanics that they added in do make it a very good action and adventure game.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, I don't know, it's usually this is kind of where like a lot of open world games go, and Tears of the Kingdom is kind of the only big open world game this year. And honestly, I mean, I have a big Zelda bias. I think this is actually the first thing I'm voting for Zelda for while recording this, while going through the nominees, which is kind of surprising. But no, I don't think it's even close in this category. I've played a lot of the ones nominated in this category too. The only one I haven't played is Alan Wake. I absolutely love Spider-Man 2. I had a great time with Resident Evil 4, and Jedi Survivor was a lot better than I expected it to be, despite it being a buggy mess. But no, it's not even close. Tears of the Kingdom, far better than all of these.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say, like, it deserves it. I think it definitely deserves it with how it innovated the world of Breath of the Wild, and I think the mechanics, like the building stuff, no way that anything else wins. They really did good on the, like, that's what Tears of the Kingdom excels at, is the adventure aspect.
Right. No, I agree.
I do want Resident Evil to win, though.
I wouldn't be upset if Resident Evil wins, but it would be a very weird game to win this category in particular.
Exactly. I think that I just love Resident Evil for its combat and puzzle solving and other things like that, but I think Tears of the Kingdom deserves it more, or will win it. I don't know how to describe my thoughts on it.
No, I get what you're saying. I think the only other game, in my opinion, when I'm thinking of like the idea of going on an adventure in a game, the other game that gave me that kind of feeling this year was Jedi Survivor. I feel like Resident Evil 4 was a great game, but I didn't get that sense of me going on an adventure. I felt like I was kind of more following a storyline, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I'm thinking of like which one invoked that sense of adventure while I was playing, Resident Evil didn't do that as much for me, and the same goes for Spider-Man 2. It was really only Jedi Survivor and Tears of the Kingdom that did that for me, and Tears of the Kingdom did it far better.
I would love to see a Spider-Man game that actually makes it feel like I am going on an adventure, because I don't know, I can't speak on game design when it comes to the world and stuff like that, but something just doesn't click with me with the Spider-Man games.
It feels like weirdly closed in. Like, you can't. There was like this discussion of like, oh, let's have Spider-Man go elsewhere when people were talking about like, oh, they're still reusing New York. But Spider-Man's whole thing is that he's saving New York. He's in New York. I don't really know how else you could go about that for a Spider-Man game. So I'm not like taking that as a negative for them, but it does still feel like I'm never leaving New York. The entire story takes place in this one central location. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just makes it feel a bit more closed off.
And when you're using a real city, it is hard to innovate and make things feel special and new, especially when there's already other Spider-Man games that take place and that have come out recently that use the similar assets and other things like that.
Right. The next category, I don't think it's going to even be close. It's Best RPG.
Yeah.
Though I still have quite a lot to talk about the nominees for this category, because this category is interesting in its nominees. We have Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy XVI, Liza P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win.
There's no way it doesn't.
I don't know why the fuck Final Fantasy XVI is here. That game is not an RPG. Like, it is just straight up not an RPG at all. It's an action game. I don't know why they put it in this category, but whatever. Starfield is interesting, though.
Listen, for people listening who don't know this, I am the biggest Bethesda fan. I love Bethesda so much, but Starfield is in no way, it does not get anywhere close to any of these other games as a good RPG. Starfield was such a letdown in so many ways, and I mean, it's not even an eighth of the game that Baldur's Gate is, let alone the other ones.
Yeah. I don't know, I feel like Phantom Liberty deserved to be there more than Starfield, honestly, because I played a little bit of Starfield on Game Pass, and I've never been a big Bethesda fan. A lot of Bethesda games I have played, I just have not enjoyed. So I was kind of going into Starfield expecting myself to not like it, but I played Starfield and then immediately went into playing Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty, and I was just like having this like, holy shit, this is what I've wanted out of Bethesda for years. This is where I want Bethesda games to be innovation-wise. And it's baffling going from Starfield that feels so ancient in its design to Cyberpunk that feels like it's what Bethesda needs to be doing with their games. It's baffling to me.
I just think that I was so excited for Starfield 2 because, you know, it's not a fantasy or a post-nuclear war kind of setting, and I was so curious how Bethesda Game Studio would handle it. And it just felt like I was playing. It didn't feel like a game that was made by I don't know how to describe this. It didn't feel original. It didn't feel. I don't know how I should describe this one. Sorry.
No, I get what you're saying. It kind of falls back into what came before more than what it builds upon. In some ways, it's even lesser than what came before. I don't know. I think Starfield might be the most disappointing game of the year. It's definitely not the worst, but I think overall it seems quite disappointing overall, just in general for most people.
I'm disappointed.
So, for this category, I will say Baldur's Gate absolutely deserves it. It is the coolest RPG on this list. It is the most in-depth RPG on this list. It is the most impressive RPG on this list. I'm voting Sea of Stars.
I knew that's how you're gonna feel. I mean, you haven't played Baldur's Gate, but
yeah, my opinion might change, but I really don't see Baldur's Gate hitting the same peaks for me that Sea of Stars did.
And I totally understand that. It's just not your thing. But the amount of choices and the routes in Baldur's Gate, and the fact that you can play origin stories of all of the different characters, and then the Dark Urge added onto that, the amount of content that is packed into this $60 game is crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I also want to say this before I forget. A giant snub from the awards as a whole, but this category in particular, is Octopath 2 didn't get nominated. And I thought it was such a lock-in for this category that Octopath would get nominated, because honestly, like, when I'm thinking of my favorite RPGs I've played this year, it is between Sea of Stars and Octopath, and it's super close. I would still probably give the edge to Sea of Stars, but it just sucks to see Octopath not get any recognition here. It's just really unfortunate.
I'm actually excited for this next category.
Oh, Best Fighting. One of these I've actually never heard of, God of Rock. I've never heard of that game. Mm-hmm. The other nominees are Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. I'll let you start off.
I think that Street Fighter 6 is pretty good. I was actually kind of nervous about Street Fighter 6, but I don't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. My vote goes for Mortal Kombat 1.
Really?
I think, yeah, it does. And I feel like that is a bizarre pick, but I have always been a big fan of Mortal Kombat. And this is the first game since X that I have truly fallen in love. I mean, there's only been, 11 before this, but I think that it was able to suck me back into my obsession with Mortal Kombat, which I was so impressed by, because, I don't know, it just... The way that they changed the plot, and they changed everything, I think they did the plot of this game really well, and the mechanics of it also are wonderful.
I would love to give Mortal Kombat 1 a shot at some point. I just didn't buy it because I know it's going to drop down in price a lot eventually. So I'll pick it up eventually. I really want to try out the DLC. The DLC looks dope.
I'm just such a geek for Mortal Kombat lore, and this gave like a whole new layer. And it even references old lore. I think it's just because I have such a deep nostalgia for the lore of the games.
That's totally fair. The only one on this list that I have played is Street Fighter 6. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to a couple people about what they think is the best fighting game of the year, and I've heard pretty consistently that it's Street Fighter 6 over Mortal Kombat 1. I can't give too detailed an opinion because, obviously, as I said, I haven't played Mortal Kombat 1. But I'm not usually a big fighting game person. Like, I used to play a lot of Smash, but even then that's debatable if it's a fighting game, and even then I'm not into Smash at all anymore. But Street Fighter 6 was weirdly one that I was able to actually play for quite a while, which I only have like 20 hours into this game, so that is like a while for a fighting game for me before dropping off. Normally it's like maybe an hour or two. But no, I had a great time with Street Fighter 6, which really surprised me. I had no intentions of picking it up this year, but a couple of our friends also picked it up. I was like, whatever, I'll pick it up, and if I don't like it, I don't like it. But I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to vote for Street Fighter 6 for this one. Alright, next category is Best Family Game. We have Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
I think Pikmin 4 deserves this category.
I'm really conflicted. I know one category I am going to give Pikmin 4 to that's coming up, but man, I don't know. Like, Mario's like that family game. You play it with a group of friends.
I guess I just don't care for Mario. You know that.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say Party Animals was a pretty big disappointment to me. I played that a little bit, and I bought it with like a group of friends. We all played it for an hour, and we all refunded it. We were all really excited for it too, but it just kind of dropped the ball for us.
Sonic Superstars, I know there's some Sonic game that people really hate. That's not this one, right?
No, it is not this one, but do you want to know something interesting about this one?
Sure, yeah.
So, under the developer, it lists Sonic Team and Sega, but it also lists the studio Arzest. Does that name mean anything to you?
It sounds vaguely familiar. Why?
They are the specific development studio that developed Balan Wonderworld. And that's who Sega trusted with their next 2D Sonic.
That is... What?
Yeah. So Arzest is kind of notorious for making pretty mediocre games. Like, it ranges from mediocre to bad most of the time. So, and I will say it is absolutely the worst game on this list. It's not a terrible game, but it was... I felt pretty empty when I beat it.
That is interesting. I've never heard of Disney Illusion Island.
I have only heard like small things about it, about its art style being really cool. It's supposed to be like a spiritual successor to some old Disney games on the, I think, Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. It sounds cool, just not something that is up my alley to be like invested in.
Best sim/strategy is the next one.
Ooh, that's the one I wanted to talk about. This is a fun category for me, but you'll probably have very little input on this one, I'll be real. We have Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, City Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, and Pikmin 4. Do any of these games mean anything to you?
Pikmin 4! I mean, even at that point, I don't know much about Pikmin 4. I have played City Skylines, or the original one. Yep, that's it.
So, when I woke up this morning, I messaged a couple of our mutual friends who are really into Fire Emblem. Most of them hate Fire Emblem Engage. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the best Fire Emblem games to ever come out. So I was like kind of on this thing like, oh, sim and like strategy, Fire Emblem's absolutely getting nominated. I can't think of anything else in this category that will be like good. So I think I think Fire Emblem Engage has a very strong chance of winning an award, and I think that will be so funny. I did actually really like Fire Emblem Engage. I think it's a great game. But I didn't consider that Pikmin 4 was going to be in this category, and I'd be lying out my ass if I said that Fire Emblem Engage was better than Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 was so good. It's such a great game. Mm-hmm. So I really, really want to vote for Fire Emblem Engage, but it's Pikmin 4, so I'm voting for that. And I would love to see Pikmin 4 win an award. This series has been really hard for Nintendo to get off the ground, and I would love to see it get some recognition finally. Oh, this is going to be a category we have a lot of input on. Best sports and racing games.
Oh, yeah.
For time, let's just skip it. Let's just skip right past that one to best multiplayer. We have Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I feel like there's a strong chance Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win this one, but I don't really know how the multiplayer works with that game, to be entirely honest.
So, you're saying you don't know how Baldur's Gate works?
Yeah, my vote's gonna be for Mario Bros. Wonder, because out of these, that's the most, multiplayer game to me. Mm-hmm. But I could totally see Baldur's Gate winning, I just don't know how it works.
So imagine, okay, so you know how, I'm only gonna describe this in this way because I think this makes sense to you, but you know how D&D works, right? Where you have a party of players? Right,
it's like you're part of a campaign going on a crew, right?
Yes.
And so player is like a party member.
So Asterion, Lae'zel, Gale, Will, Halsin, Shadowheart, Karlach, all of those people. Imagine if you wanted to play D&D by yourself and instead you had robots that had, intense personalities and wonderful stories and stuff like that play as your D&D party with you. It's basically to fill in all the companions are to fill in gaps while you could have up to 4 people in a D&D party, kind of, playing the entirety of Baldur's Gate 3 with you.
Sam, should we play Baldur's Gate 3 together?
I would love to. I think you should experience some of it on your own, but it is very fun, and I think that Baldur's Gate 3, playing with other people, changes the experience, because I think in some of the most important things about playing Baldur's Gate is my companions and dealing with their side missions and their thoughts and their opinions on what's going on. And it has so much content with it, and taking that away and just having 4 people be loose cannons together is so wonderful and different. And I think that its multiplayer is done very well. I think Baldur's Gate could have not been multiplayer at all and still been Game of the Year. But the fact that they have an entire multiplayer system that works very well is so fun.
We'll have to talk about it like after we're done recording this, but with Elden Ring, like a lot of people say, oh, you should play Elden Ring by yourself first. But me playing Elden Ring in multiplayer is what sold that game for me. If that game was not multiplayer, I would have not enjoyed that game.
Exactly. I've played very little of Elden Ring, but the only times that I have enjoyed myself only because I was playing alongside you or someone else, and you guys were killing the boss, and I was just being goofy trying to help.
So, I don't know, maybe when I give Baldur's Gate 3 another chance, maybe we should do multiplayer instead, and maybe I'll have a better time, but I don't know.
Yeah, and Diablo is a great pick for this. I think that this is one of the categories I think Diablo actually has a chance of winning. Yeah.
It's very interesting to see this category be more of like a cooperative focus this year, when it's usually like all the online shooters.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I love seeing that this year. Okay, this is gonna be a fun one. I don't know how long this conversation is gonna be, but we definitely have a conversation about the obvious omission from this one being best adaptation. We have Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal. Where's FNAF?
We know where's FNAF?
Where's FNAF? Like really? Like Gran Turismo, Twisted Metal? I've heard both of those were really bad.
I have a weird love for Twisted Metal, but that's yeah.
I'm not talking about Twisted Metal this year. I've heard that show specifically is really bad.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why those got nominated over FNAF. I didn't even like FNAF. I thought it was a pretty bad movie, but it should have been nominated.
I'm on the exact opposite side. I love the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it played such a good tribute to the fans, and it was goofy. It was not a horror movie. It was goofy. Even if FNAF was on this list, though, Last of Us will win. It has to win. There's no way it doesn't.
It's not even close.
It's not even close.
Like, even like me, like I probably had more fun with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but The Last of Us is better, and also I do have like a personal connection to that I got to watch it with my mom, and I got to kind of show her this thing that I loved in a way that she could actually enjoy it. And I think she's now a Last of Us fan. She's excited for the next season, and we're planning to watch it together moving forward whenever it does eventually come out. So that's something really special, and that's what I feel like adaptations are at their best, is when they can translate something into a medium for other people that don't play games enjoy, rather than being so focused on making the already existing fans happy. I think that's something Last of Us does that so few adaptations do right, at least. So
and I was so nervous. I heard they got rid of spores, and I was anxious about that. I am such a big Last of Us fan. I have a Last of Us tattoo. I care so much for it. And the fact that they did it so right, I'm not disappointed in any way with the series. And the fact that, like you said, it has brought so many more people to it. I now talk about Last of Us with my family, my parents, random coworkers, because everyone was brought to this wonderful piece of media because it was able to be translated into a show well.
Yeah, and like, I even went on like a family vacation over the summer, And just randomly, my uncle just came up to me just out of nowhere. He's like, hey, have you seen this Last of Us thing? I was like, whoa, you know what Last of Us is? That's so cool. So that is a really special thing of Last of Us on both the impact it has had and also just being a fucking amazing adaptation. It is debatably one of the best adaptations of a video game ever. So
and
I think even though I know for a fact critics are going to vote for it, it's the only thing critics actually like this year. I mean, I'm going to vote for it. I think Last of Us deserves it.
I will say, so the thing is that, like, I think that Last of Us is the perfect thing for an adaptation as well, because the story is what made Last of Us amazing. I mean, it has great gameplay, it has great visuals, it was wonderful for its time, but the story is what impacted players the most, obviously. And it's the perfect thing to be adapted into a show series. And so if you want someone to experience that story that you love and that you're so attached to, but they don't play games, you can just let them see the show. Well, I think like something like Mario, I liked the Mario movie. I don't like Mario itself. It was fine, but it's not like an intense story that like you can't it just doesn't hit the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's fun for people who like Mario.
It is great at being what it is. But it, like you said, it doesn't have the same impact at all. All right, this might be the last like serious category I think that we have to go over. Yeah. Well, actually, before we get to Game of the Year and stuff.
Yeah.
So this one is most anticipated game. We have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8.
Hades 2. I mean,
that's so fair.
There's no way. This is the most anticipated game. I am a Hades fan, but when this was announced, that was crazy, and I have been anticipating this game coming out ever since. It was announced at the Game Awards, was it not?
Yeah, I actually got to see this one live. That was hype. I loved being in that audience when that game got revealed. I don't know, you might disagree with me on this. I think Rebirth is going to win this category, like, super easily.
I mean...
I don't think it's going to be very close.
I'm not you know what, you're right. Actually, I didn't think about this. I don't play Final Fantasy. I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I'm not a part of the community. You're right, actually. It will win. But in my eyes, Hades 2 is so above everything else in this category.
That's perfectly fair. I'm really excited for Hades 2 as well. I mean, obviously, I'm more excited for 7 Rebirth because that's who I am. But, and also Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. If you're into Yakuza, that I've heard this game is going to be pretty cool. How one of our friends has explained, like, the combat switching is going to be. That sounds super cool. I'm just not into Yakuza. I don't know why Star Wars Outlaws is here. I haven't heard a single motherfucker talk about that game, but alright. But yeah, I'm really excited for 7 Rebirth and Hades 2. But alright, we have the two biggest categories being Best Game Direction and Game of the Year. We'll start off with Best Game Direction. The nominees are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I completely forgot. There's only 5 for Best Game Direction. And the only difference with Game of the Year is it's those 5 plus Resident Evil 4. So
I think that Baldur's Gate deserves Best Game Direction by far. The creative vision, the innovation, the design, it is top tier.
I'm so split on this one. I might need to think on this one for a minute. I'm between 2 games, actually.
Okay, go for it.
I am between Mario Wonder and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
That is so... I can see Wonder. I cannot see Tears of the Kingdom, personally.
I think with Mario Wonder, they went in such a out there direction with that game that people have been begging them to do something new with 2D Mario for so long.
Yeah.
And
that's why I think it's fine.
Out of all these games nominated, I almost feel like that's the one that deserves it the absolute most because it was so out there. While Spider-Man 2, I love the direction they went in, but it was a very expected direction. I can't speak on Baldur's Gate 3, I can't speak on Alan Wake 2. But for Tears of the Kingdom, why I feel like it is such an interesting direction is because it went in a direction that I don't think many people expected, with focusing on the crafting, vehicle building. If you asked me like 2-3 years ago if I thought there was going to be vehicle building in Tears of the Kingdom, I would have been like, fuck no, why would there be? But to see them do it and do it so well and have the crafting be so easy for anyone to use, that's actually like one of my biggest criticisms whenever there is like vehicle crafting or building crafting or anything like that in games. Most of the time, unless it's something like Minecraft, it is overly complicated for no reason. But Tears of the Kingdom made it just be, you slap two things together, and it just works. And
it just works.
So that's my argument for Tears of the Kingdom.
I know, you know what?
So out there.
I will give you this. I think I'm being a little biased. I was just so heavily disappointed by Tears of the Kingdom that I think that's dramatic. I was just disappointed by Tears of the Kingdom. So I think that maybe I just in some way I just don't feel like I want it to win, and I love Baldur's Gate 3 so much. But you're so right, actually. The innovation with the crafting system, I completely forgot about that. It was actually good. It was wonderful. I don't think they innovated the game as much as I wish they would have, but the crafting system and the some aspects of exploration were definitely innovated in a way that was impressive, and they did it so right. For what the game changed with Breath of the Wild, they did it right.
Yeah, I would agree. You also do have quite a different experience with the open world Zelda games because you played them both back to back. Mm-hmm. Which is so interesting having, like, see what your opinion is, like, playing one and then going directly into the other when most people had, like, a 6-year gap between them playing the games.
And I think that it's just, I think that's why it's so apparent how similar they are and how little has changed in my eyes. Because I went, first time ever experiencing Breath of the Wild, and then immediately first time experiencing Tears of the Kingdom. I went to the opening night, I got it that day. I don't know. It's just something... I felt like I was playing the same game with just a few differences.
I hear ya.
I think it just made it kind of boring in a way.
I hear you. I disagree, but...
I know you do.
I could also see with Baldur's Gate 3. I almost feel like in a weird way, with my initial thoughts on Baldur's Gate, I was quite disappointed with it, but... I don't know. I want to hear your argument for Baldur's Gate for game direction specifically.
I think that they were extremely creative with how they designed the game, and the amount of innovation that they have within the like role play, within the like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm kind of bad at this. I think that the game has an outstanding creative vision, and it innovates upon the RPG system, and it does it so well, and it adds so much to it. I've never played a role-playing game that felt like I was actually in control of what I was doing, and like I actually had some kind of say, and that my every choice mattered. The game stressed me out. I didn't know what to say to characters most of the time, and I would save so much because I was worried. It felt like I was actually playing D&D, where the game was coming up with what was actually responding to what I was saying and stuff like that, and what I was doing. And there's so many unique different routes, and I feel like every game that is role-playing, yeah, there's the appearance of so many routes, but in all reality, it doesn't change that much. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I get it. And maybe I'll understand it more when I put some more time into this game. I'm so between Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom, though. I from what you're explaining, I do think Baldur's Gate is a very valid pick.
I think I will say I won't be upset if I think that, like, even if I'm saying that I view Tears of the Kingdom less than all the other games and stuff like that, or not all the other, just like Baldur's Gate and Wonder, I will say that if any of these games wins, I think they deserve it. I think it's hard for me to be mad if one of these wins.
I'm split, but I think I'm going to give it to Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay, and I think that's totally valid. I think I won't be mad if it wins. I think I came into this category thinking I'm being super biased, but you kind of grounded me in a way, you know?
Yeah, I get you. And I understand your arguments for Baldur's Gate as well. I want to see it. I would love to totally see what this game excels in before the awards.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's very interesting, us two specifically talking about this, because we have such different wants from video games. We have such different views on the games that we have played, that we're just going to be at a fundamental, like, we're just not going to agree on some categories, no matter what.
Right. And then, I guess this is just extending the same conversation we've just had for Game of the Year. Except we get to talk about Resident Evil 4 as well.
Yes.
So this is not just specifically talking about the direction the game went in. This is also just what was the game you had the most fun with this year? What was the greatest video game experience you had this entire year? And for you, I assume it's Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I hate to like feel like a record on repeat, on loop, but it's just gonna be Baldur's Gate. There's no way around it. It is the best game of the year.
I will say, before I say what my game of the year is, because I was actually split on like 3 going into this. I will say, prediction-wise for what will actually win, I don't think it's even close. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win because of one singular reason. I think everyone going into these awards have been like, oh, it's definitely between Baldur's Gate 3 or Tears of the Kingdom. And I agree with that. I think those are the only 2 games listed here that have a real chance of winning. The thing is, though, I didn't factor in the part of Mario Wonder being nominated. And there are going to be a lot of Nintendo fans that would have voted for Tears of the Kingdom but are now going to vote for Mario Wonder. And that might just be enough to set Baldur's Gate up a couple percentages to win. So I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win for that reason. If Mario Wonder wasn't here, I think it would be a lot closer. I really do think before Mario Wonder was here, it was like 50-50.
Mm-hmm. There's many games where I would be fine if in the last category, if Tears of the Kingdom were to win and Baldur's Gate was to not, I would be fine with that. I'd be like, okay, I can understand that. I simply cannot get behind Tears of the Kingdom winning this one. I think Baldur's Gate 3 deserves it. And I feel like I keep repeating myself on how good it was, but Larian Studios went above and beyond, and they deserve this win so badly.
Okay, I'll explain my arguments, and also I want to go through the 2 other games I was between. First off, this isn't one of the 3 I was considering, but I absolutely loved Resident Evil 4 Remake. That game was so good. I loved it so much, and it's really unfortunate that it's in a year that there were just so many great games, because it's not gonna get the recognition it deserves, but it is a great game. So, I was between Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom. And I played all of them, and it kind of eventually turned into, I loved Mario Wonder a lot, but it still was one of those things that the game, it still is just a 2D Mario game, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it was a game that I was done with within like a day or 2. That I 100%ed it, and then I've seen everything with it. And while I had a great time with it, it didn't have that lasting effect on me that I wish it did. But I do think it is the greatest 2D Mario game to ever come out. And I think that is something to say that it's even here at all. And that it was even something that I considered while I was playing it. So then it came down to Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for me. And I will be honest, I think Marvel's Spider-Man 2 could have won out. But I don't know what happened. But that game was so buggy when it came out. Like, I don't know, how much have you heard about the bugs of this game? Has that something you've been heard about?
I've heard nothing, not a single thing.
I kind of want to send you this clip that I had while I was playing it. And this was like the point where it was one of those things that the bugs weren't like game breaking or awful, but it was almost worse, that it was immersion breaking. That I was following this story, and while, like, you know, like when you're playing a game and you kind of forget that you're playing a game because you're following the story, you're seeing these characters on the screen as real characters, right? Mm-hmm. But then, I'm going to put this in the video itself. Let me find it real quick. For a little bit of context, I won't spoil like exactly what it is for people watching, but something super, super serious just happened in the story. And this is when like Peter gets the symbiote for the first time. This is the shit that happened to me while I was playing the game. I sent it in DMs.
What?
Yeah, he just goes bald.
That's crazy.
And there's so much shit like that in this game. Like there was this bug where for some reason you would just turn into a box. Like just a white box.
Bizarre.
And then there was other ones where you would just be a floating head. There were certain puzzles in the game that were just broken because just stuff didn't spawn in. And no matter how many times I reloaded my save, went back to the place, it still wasn't like fixed. I had to wait for patches to fix it. So while I love Spider-Man 2, I would still give it like a 9. I had a great time with it. There was so much immersion breaking issues with that game at launch. And they might be fixed now, but for that reason, I am going to give it to Tears of the Kingdom. It would have been a lot closer if it wasn't for that. And it's also not just because I was a niddle, that issue with Spider-Man 2, why I'm giving it to Tears of the Kingdom. Before I move on, actually, I will say, there is one part later in the game that is so cool that I really don't want to spoil it because the game is still too recent. But there's one gameplay thing. If you've played the game, you'll know what I'm talking about. That they let you play as a certain character out of just nowhere. And it's the only time they let you play as the character, but it is the most memorable and coolest part of the entire game. And maybe one of the coolest gaming moments I've had this entire year. Because I just remember popping off when it was like the camera turned and it just gave you a prompt to start playing as the character. It was the coolest thing. But Tears of the Kingdom, it was my most anticipated game for a long time. And I feel like for the most part, it did match the quality of Breath of the Wild, and I absolutely loved it. There are certain things I can definitely criticize about the game that did disappoint me a little bit, as in I kind of wish there was a bit more in the sky. The sky was one of my favorite parts of the entire game, and there just wasn't a lot up there. At least not as much as I would have wanted out of a giant open world game. But I loved what they did with the dungeons in this game. The dungeons are far better than what they were in Breath of the Wild. I really like all the new abilities. Being able to jump through ceilings, so fun. The crafting is super fun. It's super easy. It's super satisfying too. And being able to solve puzzles and how that is designed, that you don't even have to follow the exact way something is designed for you to complete a puzzle. If you find some other way to complete a puzzle using crafting and making your own abilities, the game still does reward you for solving the puzzle your own way. And it's such a satisfying experience. It is a great sequel, and it is a sequel to my favorite game of all time. So maybe I am biased in that way, that it is a sequel to my favorite game of all time. It's in my favorite series of all time. It was just everything that I could have wanted, except for like some very small things. And even like the deaths, that was something that wasn't advertised at all, and Nintendo didn't tell us about that at all leading up to the build-up. And that doubled the size of the game. Just what you hop in a little hole, bam, there's a giant new world to explore, and that is so cool. So for that reason, Tears of the Kingdom is my game of the year. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a ramble there.
No, you're good to ramble. It's very interesting to hear your perspective on all this, especially because we have, like I said earlier, such different views on games and what we look for in them.
Right, yeah. It's gonna be really interesting. I really do feel like Baldur's... If I was like to place a bet on one of them winning, I do think Baldur's Gate has this in the lock, just because of how split the vote is going to end up being. If it wasn't as close as it could have been, as it is going to be, I don't know. I think Baldur's Gate was just a really big surprise as well. Like, at the start of the year, I heard nobody talking about this game, and it feels like it just kind of came out of nowhere. And then was the biggest game.
And it blew up, and it did amazing. I didn't think I was going to care about Game Awards this year, except for Dredge. And, yeah, Baldur's Gate just knocked it out of the park for me. It was the game I needed this year.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I can kind of see like the appeal of the game. I really do want the game to click for me. And I think it'd be really fun after the Game Awards happen. I think it'd be really fun to do like a follow-up conversation about whatever happens. And also talk about like whatever games get announced, whatever we're excited for. And maybe have like a little bit of a follow-up on Baldur's Gate, like after I've played some of it, and have a little bit of a conversation around that. Because I'm sure like even if Baldur's Gate doesn't win Game of the Year, there is a solid chance it's going to win quite a few other awards. So there'll be some stuff to talk about, I think, if that's something you're interested in doing. But yeah, we'll end up seeing, and we'll do a follow-up to this. This recording went a lot longer than I thought it would, but we had a lot to talk about. I'm really glad we got to talk about it.
Yeah, I think this concludes our Game Awards conversation. I always love having these debates with you and having conversations about what we think will win. I hope the game I want to win wins.
I wish you the best of luck. We'll see who wins whenever we talk again. So, yes. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment. Let us know what game you want to win. That would be... this is such a big year for games. There's a lot of people talking about games that should have been nominated for Game of the Year, like Final Fantasy XVI. Just let us know what games you guys liked this year. This was one of the best years in gaming, so I would love to see what people wanted to win this year. But thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. See you guys in the next one.